Welcome to Stories from the Village of Nothing Much. Like easy listening, but for fiction. I'm Kathryn Nicolai. I write and read all the stories you'll hear on the Village of Nothing Much. Audio engineering and sound design is by Bob Wittersheim. In our show notes, you'll find links to our ad-free premium version, our other shows, and our merch and partner products. We just launched a really cute set with a mini Nothing Much Happens coloring book, colored pencils, and a special coloring-themed story. The link to everything is in our notes. Ooh, it is walking tour day. We heard from so many of you after our last tour that you really enjoyed it, that the soundscape was so immersive and the whole experience so calming. Many, many people let us know that they listened to it a, quote, weird number of times. But friends, let me say, the world is pretty weird right now. Seeking ways to soften your nervous system and feel okay, that's not weird. It is smart, and you're just taking care of yourself. So we will do it again, and you listen along in any way that feels good. You can walk with us. You can listen while you're soaking in a hot bath or driving home from work. Let yourself slip into a place of imagination and curiosity as I keep you company. We'll be starting out at the village library today, a magical place in its own right, but with the added wonder of the walking paths and trails located just behind it. I do recommend you go to nothingmuchhappens.com and scroll to the bottom of the homepage to see where the library sits on the map. It's just north of downtown on the edge of a neighborhood of old homes. But first, let's take a deep breath in through the nose and sigh. One more time, breathe in and exhale. Good. Village, Library, and Trails Walking Tour. Hey, so glad that you made it. I've been watching the weather, and I was worried we'd get rained on, but it looks like it's going to be a really beautiful afternoon. The snow is pretty much all melted. There's just a few of those icy piles left over in the parking lot over there. Those always take forever to melt. But the sidewalks and the trails are clear, and the last few days, when we had all that wind, at least it dried up the mud. And it's died down now. So I think a spring coat will be plenty for our walk. I almost suggested we meet up in town, like at the bakery. Never a bad idea, right? That's just a 5-minute walk or so from here. But listen, we'll have lots of these walks ahead of us. And I promise that the bakery is on the list. Now, our library was first built in the 20s, and it has been renovated and added on to a couple of times. So you can see from out here the reddish brick facade. That is original. These broad stone steps and benches are all part of the first version of the library. And now, of course, they've added the ramp for better accessibility, and you can go in here through the front door or at the patio entrance around the side. I know that we're going to have time to venture out into the trails later, but just take a second with me here. Spring is on its way. You can hear birds in the trees, and there is that scent of the ground after it's absorbed all of the melted snow. Often when I come here in the mornings, there are folks sitting on all the benches, just happily waiting for the doors to open. And that makes me so happy. I love a crowded library. Okay, let's go in. I'm going to keep my voice down so that we don't get into trouble. But this vestibule is completely tiled all the way up the walls with these beautiful iridescent, bluish green arts and crafts style tiles. I remember coming here as a kid and running my fingers over them. They have such a smooth finish. And these come from the ceramics company on the south side of town. They are still in business, and they still make tiles, mostly for replacements in historic buildings. But they also make vases and lamps and bowls. I have one of their vases handed down from my grandmother, and I'm so careful with it. It is one of my prized possessions. But keep an eye out at garage sales. Every once in a while, you'll find one of their pieces, and you'll know it, of course, by the stamp on the bottom, but also by this special glaze. Okay, so moving farther in, this is an older section of the library. You can see it has wood paneling, and the shelves go way up, almost to the ceiling. In fact, if you look up to the beams that cross the space, you can see the carvings that run over them. Wait, stand right here. Now look, isn't that beautiful? They're apple blossoms, and they're carved all over. Once you start looking for them, you'll see them in lots of places. It's a symbol of the village, tied into our orchards. It's kind of nice to think that apple blossoms will be blooming in about 2 months. So this library was built when there was an important change in the idea behind libraries in general. Before ours was built, many libraries existed to protect books, to keep them safe, but maybe a little out of the hands of certain people. But when ours was designed, thankfully the idea was evolving. So this was a place to bring readers and books together. All readers and all books. So this room was a place to store and display the books, and then the rooms on either side of it are reading and studying rooms. Now, it was also a time when things like uniform shelf depth and the Dewey Decimal System were coming into use. And this made finding information more accessible. There was a sameness to spaces like this. So once you knew how to use the card catalog and such, you could go to any library and find what you were looking for. And this single room, for many years, though it is large, what would you say, 30 feet by 30 feet or so, it held the library's entire collection. And now it just holds nonfiction. Do you always have to think through what nonfiction and fiction mean, by the way? I don't think it's intuitive. Is it just me? Whenever I say nonfiction in my head, I have to think through that non means true in this case. It's the same with former and latter. That is never a straight line to understanding in my head. Anyway, I'm sure I could look up the origins of all those terms right here in this room if I wanted to. Let's head through the doorway over there to the left to see one of the study rooms. Gosh, it's so quiet in here. I've always been kind of sensitive to noisy places. And sometimes I come here just to feel the quiet. Do you remember when restaurants had smoking sections? I always thought they should have quiet sections. Like, table for one in the quiet section, please. And then the waiter would whisper to you very gently about how you take your tea. So this room is more for study than for casual reading. There are rows of tables, these lovely hardwood tables with space to lay out several books at once. And they have these book cradles to support the older texts. And each area has its own green glass shaded reading lamp. I like how every chair is the same, every table, even the waste paper baskets are all identical. And while this room doesn't have shelves of books, it does have some community collections, and they change them out every month. They're always fun to look at. Last month, they were full of toys from the 80s and 90s, and I recognized so many of them. I took pictures and sent them to my brother to ask if he had had like that particular GoBot or that Atari game. And I spotted all the My Little Ponies I dreamed of as a little girl. The month before that, they had a collection of women's hats and fascinators from the 1880s through the 1960s. So fun to look at them and read about their owners. This month they have a collection of handmade valentines. Yeah, we can look closer, definitely. Wow, these are amazing. I was thinking they might be like the ones we used to hand out in school. You know, the I choose you kind. But these are way older. From the 19th century, it looks like. And made with lace and hand-cut paper. You know, they're having a paper craft class next week, actually. Do you want to sign up? It's free, and they provide all the supplies, and you learn to do some origami shapes and some paper flowers and even how to make a pop-up card. You do? Oh, great. Okay, it's going to be so fun. We can sign up at the circulation desk, but I want to show you the reading room on the other side of the original library first. So let's go back through this doorway and across through the stacks. I can't help but spotting like a dozen books that I want to read. And then we'll go through there. And we'll go through here. This room has such a relaxing vibe. Still lots of paneling and dark wood. Still the motif of apple blossoms. See them down there? They're carved into the molding along the floor. But look at this beautiful fireplace. They converted it a few years ago from wood to gas. I think wood smoke might not have been ideal for all the books, but it is still so cozy. There are these long sofas and armchairs and side tables. This is where you want to curl up with a good book for a while. The windows look out toward the neighborhoods. And when I was here at the end of last year, the sun had just set, and I could see so many houses decorated with Christmas lights. I'd stayed till closing that night, right here in this chair with a book, till a librarian came and quietly cleared his throat beside me. It was time to go home. There's one more space that is original to the library. Follow me through this doorway. Now, this was a meeting room, a community space for lectures and clubs and the like. It's fairly small. I'd say about 30 people in chairs could fit, with a little dais in front. And the addition that was built a while back has much larger meeting rooms, but they still use this one. I came to a historical lecture here last October. It was one of those moonlit autumn nights when there's a bit of spookiness in the air. And we heard a local historian recounting this mystery from 200 years ago, a disappearance that's never been solved. You know, I still think about it from time to time. There are a couple of local landmarks that figure into the case. I'll tell you about it on another walk. It's a long story. Now, from this hall, you can see that they added the new part of the library on. And I love that they kept the bricks and the old stone, and then they blended in all this glass and modern style. Both parts of the building, they're kind of like time capsules, showing when they were designed. It's so light and airy on this side of the library. And yes, you can probably tell a little bit noisier, too. Tell you what, this is the children's wing, and it's so fun to wander through. So take a few minutes and check out all their art projects and collections, and let's meet up when you're done. Over there by the periodicals, okay? Did you see the giant teddy bear in the chair at the children's desk? They dress it up for all the seasons. I love the children's section. They have regular story times and play times, and I think for a lot of families, this place is one of the most important spots in the community. They had a movie night last week, and everyone was invited to come in PJs, and the movie theater from downtown provided a bunch of popcorn. Yeah, you don't have to be a kid to come. The library is for everyone. Okay, where should we go next? Oh, let's step out onto the patio. That fresh air smells so good. They built this addition 2 summers ago, and it is my favorite spot to write on warm days. I'll get an iced coffee from the coffee shop and walk up here with my laptop and sit at one of the tables with the umbrella open and just write all afternoon. The garden club keeps up the flowers and the shrubs, and one time I was sitting right at that table, and a deer just walked right out of the edge of the woods, and we just looked at each other for a while. I was the only one out here, and it felt like this moment of communication between us. She must have felt safe around me, because eventually she just put her nose to the ground and started to browse for a snack. And one day I was here, and they were having a kids and dogs program. This was last summer, I think. And there were a bunch of adoptable dogs from the shelter in town, and a bunch of kids. And the kids were reading to the dogs. It was so sweet. I think reading to the dogs, it made the kids feel more comfortable and confident reading. And the dogs just sat and listened. Oh my gosh, I hope they do it again this year. Okay, this patio wraps around most of the side of the building. So we can go in over here. When the weather is not amenable to patio writing, I like to write in this room. There are lots of desks and booths. They remind me of the ones at the diner, right? But less ketchup is involved. And often there are kids and tutors working in them. But they also have these little pods. There's a bench and a desk, and then this fabric wall that kind of curls around you. And when you're in them, it blocks out a lot of what is going on around you. So they're my go-to spot. I feel really focused and calm in them. I kind of want one for my house. Now, we saw the periodical room. Let's go up this ramp into the fiction and memoirs section. This is a huge space, right? So many books. I love it. I love knowing that so many people have had so many ideas and then spent time and energy working to express them. That makes me kind of fall in love with people all over again. Oh, and if you come down this row of shelves, I can't help myself. Let me see. Oh, yep, there it is. That's my book. I wrote that. It's called Nothing Much Happens, and I wrote it about our village. Lots of sleepy stories to relax to and some recipes and extras. Yes, I visit it every time I come to the library. Well, sometimes it's checked out, and I love that too, but it just never gets old seeing it on a library shelf. A dream that came true, you know. Do you have a dream like that? That you've held in your heart your whole life? It looks like you do. I would love to hear about it when you want to share. Now, in the center of all these stacks is the circulation desk. Did you say you don't have a library card? Well, let's get that sorted right now. It only takes a minute. Hello.
Hi there. What can I do for you today?
Oh, my friend needs a library card.
Ooh, how exciting. I'd love to help. Here, just fill this out.
Oh, while you do that, I'll sign us up for that paper crafting class. This looks like the clipboard right here.
Okay, you're all set. You'll get your card in the mail in a few days. But if you want to check anything out before then, just come up to the desk and we'll take care of it.
Thank you. Librarians are the best, aren't they? You know, they just got a 3D printer last month, and they're helping me print these board game pieces I came up with for my friend's game night. Sure, you can come. Do you know how to play euchre? Of course you do. Well, you should make that pizza dip, the one with the artichokes. Just a suggestion. Before we go outside, let's look at the new meeting and lecture space. It's down this hallway. Whenever I'm in rooms like these, with the tiered seats and the lecture space at the bottom, all those whiteboards and the projector, it makes me want a fresh batch of school supplies and to sign up for classes. You know, like I want a little pouch of freshly sharpened pencils and a new notebook, and to sit in one of these seats and learn about something. And I think the community education catalog is supposed to come out in a few weeks. I will definitely be signing up for something. I just don't know what yet. I heard that the genealogy class is really good. They help you build out your whole family tree. And the American Sign Language class is supposed to be great. Having something like that to look forward to, especially at this point, the end of winter, the beginning of spring, it always helps me. Okay. In some ways, we've seen all of the library, and in others, we've seen not even 1%, because, of course, the shelves contain universes of information and imagination. Listen, I'm going to go fill my water bottle before we go out on the trails. Give me yours. I'll fill yours too. And why don't you take a moment to peruse the shelves and check something out? Break in that new card. And I'll meet you out by the front steps in a minute, okay? Here's your water. Did you find something? Oh, let me see. Oh my gosh. You did so good. I read that book maybe 5 years ago, and I still think about it. Yeah, you won't be able to put that down. But put it in my backpack if you want. I promise to give it back to you before you go home. Okay. So onto the trails. These are kept up by the Friends of the Library. They're accepting new members, by the way. And they're set up sort of in loops. There are 3. They all start and end right here at the trailhead. And the first one's just a mile. The second one goes further out into the woods. It's about 3 miles. And the last one reaches even further out. It actually touches the river. And that one's about 6 miles. And we don't have to decide right now how far we want to go. We can pick at the next fork in the road. I can't get over how good it smells out here. It's so fresh and springy. And the ground feels a little springy too, doesn't it? When the library acquired this land, there weren't even trails out here. It was just solid woods. And I don't think they initially planned to install any. I think they wanted to leave it as natural as possible. But they had an arborist out, and she found that some of the trees had a disease and weren't going to survive. So they decided to use those trees as best they could, and they became the rails that line the trail and the wood chips that we're walking on. I'm kind of glad that those trees are still here, you know? Still, a lot of the woods remain, and they're home to a lot of animals and plants. Like, look, right around the trunk of that tree, snowdrops. Those are usually the first flowers of the season. Pretty exciting. And there are so many squirrels out today. Look up on that branch. See that tree with a burl on its side? I have a picture of me when I was about 10, standing beside it, and the burl is just above my head. Now every time I go by it and see how much higher it has grown into the air, it makes me smile. All these trees, they're still growing and becoming. Okay, my friend, 2 paths diverge in the wood. Are you up for going a bit further out? Great. I love those trail signs. They're hand-painted on those old-fashioned arrow-shaped slabs of wood that remind me of a fairy tale. I don't know who makes them. Another friend of the library, I guess. Look at this fallen tree. It's almost completely hollowed out, and it's so big, I think I could sit down inside of it. I wonder how long ago that tree was a sapling. Oh, do you hear that? I bet 2 weeks ago, everything would have still been frozen. But now, the stream is starting to flow. Oh, you want to go a bit off trail? I promise it's safe. I've been a dozen times. It's just a little hidden. Okay, right up here, behind this hickory tree, it's a little hard to see, but there's a bit of a path. And you can start to hear the water getting a little bit louder. The stream comes from the river further out in the woods. Now, just past this curve, you'll see it. Isn't that like straight out of a book? That stone bridge? I wish I knew who built it. I mean, there must have been a house nearby. Oh, let's go up. I love looking down as the water slips under the bridge. I don't know why it's so calming and sort of satisfying. I used to drop a leaf over one side and then rush to the other to watch it come out. And it delighted me every time it did. Now, if we go down the other side of the bridge and go that way, we'll meet back up with the path. Careful on the gravel. Sometimes it's a little loose. Did you hear that? Wait, just stand still a second. There she is. It's that deer. I mean, I guess it's a deer, but I feel like it's the same one I saw last summer. Oh, she's so pretty. Oh, there she goes. Her white tail bobbing off into the distance. Well, we're almost back to the library. Oh, let me get your book out for you. Here you go. It has me wanting to go check out something new. Yeah, I think I'm going to go back in and see if the librarians have any new favorites to recommend. Thanks for coming on this walk with me. I love seeing all these places, but sharing them with you makes it even more special. Now take your book and go find some cozy place to crack it open. Maybe the coffee shop downtown, or your sofa at home. And when you get to the twist, call me. I'm going to want to talk about it. Okay, see you next time.